learning strategies. In this presentation, we're going to talk about 3 learning strategies and how you can use them. The first one is going to be concrete examples. What is a concrete example? A concrete example is a learning strategy where you take abstract ideas and relate them to the real world. Most concrete examples are best used on things that can't be perceived normally, that can't be perceived with the eyes or ears or something like that. So for my example, I used what is confusion. Try and portray confusion using no words and only visual methods. So what I did is I drew someone with lots of arrows around their head. They don't really know where their ideas are going because they're confused. And that's how I would portray it using concrete examples.
Our second learning strategy is dual coding. What is dual coding? Dual coding is pairing verbal and nonverbal information together to help aid memory. Some of the different methods of coding that can be utilized in dual coding are drawing, reading, listening to audio, watching a video, imagining, writing, and much more. Dual coding presents multiple representations of similar information to help create new neural connections. Dual coding encourages switching learning methods semi-frequently to give more examples and can prevent material from becoming repetitive or monotonous. Dual coding can be a useful study strategy because it can teach vocabulary while also helping with visualization. Here are some examples of dual coding. There are many different types of data representation that can be especially useful in specific situations to help visualize information. For example, if you're comparing similarities and differences, a Venn diagram might be the best at representing the data. If you're comparing possible outcomes in genetics, a Mendelian cross might be most effective at displaying results.
Next, we will go on to retrieval practice. What is retrieval practice? It is the process of recalling information from memory repeatedly. Retrieval practice works by solidifying your memory by reconstructing the concepts and information you are going over. The more times you recall it, the easier it becomes for your brain to reconstruct these memories. You can do this by going over the content you want to learn, recalling the information, checking your accuracy, and repeating until you are satisfied with your results. You can use retrieval practice with flashcards, fill-in-the-blank questions, labeling diagrams from memory, or just drawing diagrams from memory. All of these methods use retrieval cues or prompts except for drawing the diagrams from memory.
So how do you use all of these learning strategies together? Well, let's take the example of your geometry professor tells you a cube and a rectangular prism both have 8 corners. You can use all 3 of these strategies to help solidify your knowledge on the subject. So, for example, concrete examples, you think of things that are cubes and rectangular prisms. A very common cube is dice or die, and a very common rectangular prism is a cereal box. When you use dual coding, you draw both a cube and the rectangular prism to help visualize them better. After drawing them, you can easily distinguish all 8 corners. And when you use retrieval at the end of using both of the other learning strategies, you can attempt to draw a cube and a rectangular prism on your own from memory or with cues. Afterwards, you check your accuracy to make sure you're correct about the content that you're learning. In this case, it's about cubes and rectangular prisms. So, what does it all mean? Well, these are only 3 of the many learning strategies available. So, limiting yourself to just 1 or even just these 3 learning strategies is not very effective. Mixing up your strategies and trying new combinations can be a very good way to spice up your learning routine, or just makes things easier to learn. This is because after a while of doing the same learning strategy, things become monotonous, or it just becomes a pattern rather than actually trying to learn the subject. Some of these strategies can be used for almost any situation. A very good example would be the one that we stated previously, retrieval. Retrieval can be used for any situation, whether you need diagrams or not, or if it's just learning words, or any situation. However, there are some strategies that cannot be used in almost any situation. A very good example of this would be concrete examples. There are some things that don't need concrete examples or already are concrete examples in themselves, so using strategy wouldn't elaborate any further than it already is. Finding what strategies work best for you is the best way to go about using learning strategies. Some work really well for some people, and the same strategies might not work nearly as well for someone else. This is, of course, from person to person, but it does have a relationship for major to major, or what you're learning about, whether you're learning about numbers, or whether you're learning about ecology as a whole, or whether you're learning about computers. It depends on what subject you're learning to what learning strategy you use to learn the subject.